Hi, it's Sarah here from Crafty Creatures with our Spring and Easter 6 and Under painting. Today we're going to need pencil and eraser. We're going to need our paintbrushes and our paints. These are the colors here. And of course something to wash our brushes in. So we're going to start off first with drawing a nice line a little bit up from the bottom. This is going to be the line between our sky and our grass. Then we're going to start drawing in our 3 Easter eggs. We want 2 smaller ones and 1 big one. And we can put that big one in behind. Don't worry about making them perfect, because we can always erase our extra pencil lines after. So our goal is to make the top a little bit narrower and the bottom wider. That's going to give us that nice egg shape. I'm just adjusting mine here. If you press nice and light with the pencil, it's a little easier to erase, so you can change that shape as much as you want. Once we're done, we can erase any extra pencil lines. So that's the line of our grass, kind of going between our eggs there. And anywhere we made a mistake with the eggs, we can erase. Again, if we press nice and light with that pencil, it is so much easier to erase those lines. And now it's time to start painting. Our blue's a little dark, so we're going to add a couple big scoops of white into that blue. We're going to want to use the smaller brush for this. We don't use our big brush for mixing, because it'll steal all our paint and it's really messy to mix with. We're going to stir that together till it's all one color. There's no little bits of white or blue. It's all the same. Now I like to use my little paintbrush for the beginning, just because it still has a bunch of paint on it. And then I can trace around my eggs nice and close. It's a little easier to trace around those shapes with that little brush than it is to go ahead and use that big brush. Now at home, you do not have to leave your canvas sitting in this position on your table. You can move it around any which way. Makes it a lot easier to trace around all those shapes. But I have to keep mine pretty still so that you guys at home can see it on the screens. This little brush is also really good for getting in those small sections that we can't quite fit the big brush in. Now that I've traced around my shapes, I'm going to go ahead and switch to my big brush. And now I don't have to be quite as careful, because I don't have to get that close to my eggs. That's why we do that outline with the little brush first. Now we want to make sure that as we're painting, we're smoothing out any big globs. You can see I'm changing direction quite a bit, and I'm making sure that I'm not being really globby with my paint. Globby paint doesn't dry well, and it also uses up a lot of our paint. So if you're using a mixed color like we are right now, if we use it all up by being really globby, then we have to try to remake that same color, and that can be a little tricky. We want to make sure we get the entire sky filled in. We don't want to leave any white gaps in the sky. And that's going to make it look so much more neat and finished. So here I am, just smoothing that paint out a little bit more, making sure it's all nice and even, that it looks good. And then I can go ahead and wash my paintbrushes. Now I'm going to do my grass with just my big brush. If that's a little scary for you, you can use your little brush, and you can use the little brush for all the grass. You can use it just like we did the sky, where we just kind of use it to trace around our eggs. Or if you're feeling pretty confident, you can go right in with the big brush. So even with the big brush, I go nice and slow around the eggs, and I go a little bit faster the further away from the eggs. Just because it's a little bit harder to paint over a dark color like green with our lighter colors we're going to use on those Easter eggs. So I'm trying to go nice and slow so I stay outside of my lines. If we go over a little bit though, it's okay. And just like with our sky, we want to make sure we paint really smooth. So I spend a good amount of time making sure I smooth all my green out. You can see just how slow I'm going when I'm going around the edges of those eggs. That's going to give me a really nice crisp line. And it's also going to give me more control, so it's a little bit less chance of me making a mistake. The nice thing about painting is there is no rush, there is no race, so we can spend as long as on each step as we want. So now I'm going to move on to the eggs, but I'm going to use my smaller brush. I'm going to start with the purple. You do not have to paint your eggs in the order that I'm painting them. I'm just painting them like I did my original one. So I'm going to start with a purple, and it's going to be this little egg in the front here on the left side. And you can see I'm starting from the side furthest away from my hand in the direction that I like to paint. That way I don't lay my hand on wet paint too much. And again, you can see I'm smoothing out my paint as I go, and I'm trying to keep it from being too globby. And one last little check to make sure I got rid of most of those big globs. And I'm going to go ahead and wash my brush and switch to my next color. So I'm going to use pink, and I'm going to paint the big egg because it's kind of beside the purple one. It's next in our little order here. And just like with the purple egg, I'm being careful around my edges. And I'm going nice and slow around the edges to keep them very, very sharp. So now that I've done my pink and my brush is super clean, I'm going to move on to the yellow. Now it's very important that we clean that brush between the other colors and yellow, because yellow is very light and it will change color very easily. So if I didn't get all my pink out of the brush, I'm going to end up with an orange, which is perfectly fine. If you want more of a pinky orange, you can mix a little pink in there. But I wanted this yellow to be nice and bright. And as always, I'm going really slow around those edges, and then I'm smoothing any big globs out, and I'm really pushing that paint around. This is just going to help it dry better, and it's going to help it look a lot better in the end. Now once you finish painting in all your eggs, you can leave them like this. They look nice and cute and nice and bright. Or if you want a bit of a challenge, we can get a bit fancy. This is kind of a bonus step coming up. And that once our eggs have dried and they're no longer shiny, we can add some decorations to them. So we can paint different colors on there. We can paint some patterns. But that's a bonus step, just if you feel up to the challenge. So I'm going to show you here, even though my painted eggs aren't quite dry yet. I'm going to start adding some little patterns onto some of the eggs. This is just a little bonus step for a little bit extra fun. So I try to choose a color that's really opposite to the egg. So for the purple, I'm doing yellow because that's going to look really, really bright. And then I'm going to use some white on my pink egg because the white's a lot lighter than my pink. And if you choose to paint your eggs and decorate them, you can do any sort of pattern you want and any colors you want. I'm doing some little swirls and dots on my pink egg here. You can even draw them out with a pencil on some scrap paper before you start painting the designs on them, just to see if you like them. And because my eggs are still a little wet, you can see my colors changing a little bit on that white there, but that's okay. So I'm trying to copy this little pattern all the way down the egg, even though it's behind the other eggs and we can't see very much of it. And then here's a little trick to make some really cute dots. We're going to use the wrong end of our paintbrush, dip it in some paint, and we're going to do a couple dots, about 2 or 3, and then dip again. You can use your big brush too if you want bigger dots, but I just wanted some cute little purple dots on my yellow egg. And once you're done painting, let your painting dry fully before touching it. And thank you for painting today. I hope your painting turned out beautiful, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.